Welcome back, everyone. The Google Pixel 6 and the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE just kind of came out in a way. The Pixel 6 is much older by like 2 months, but let's go and see how they compare. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, there are definitely a few differences as you can see, but they look very similar. The Pixel 6 looks more like a Note phone, to be honest. The S21 FE looks a little bit less boxy as the Pixel 6. On the front of the Pixel 6, we have a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display or AMOLED display, whatever it is. And it's a very good panel, 90 Hz refresh rate, a little bit of bezel, but nothing super crazy. At the bottom, nothing crazy. At the top, nothing crazy. Hole punch display as well. And this is a pretty good looking panel, as I mentioned before. It's definitely not, I think, it's highlight, but it's a pretty good panel, and I haven't really complained about it too much. On the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, on the other hand, we have the same size, technically 6.4-inch dynamic AMOLED display, but we have a 120 Hz panel here. So a little bit of a high resolution. They're both 1080p, but a little bit higher refresh rate. But I actually did notice that I do kind of like the S21 FE's panel a little bit more. I think this one looks a little bit nicer to me, but some people may not even see a difference, so that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind too. In terms of thinness and thickness, you can kind of see that the S21 FE seems a little bit thinner. I do like how the Pixel 6 has a good heft to it, but I do like how the S21 FE doesn't have a huge camera bump either, and I feel like the S21 FE is a little bit easier to hold. Now on the back though, this is a really crazy thing. The Pixel 6 has a full glass back with this massive camera setup here and a little bit of a glass back up there too. Where the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE actually has a plastic back on it, which is a little, big of a disadvantage in my opinion. We have a dual camera setup on the Pixel 6, triple camera setup on the, Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Both have wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, IP certification, USB Type-C ports on both, but I think when it comes down to it, these phones are very similar than not. The screen, I would say the front is better on the S21 FE, but the back is better on the Pixel 6. I would also say that the extra camera setup on the S21 FE is a little bit of a better setup too, which we'll get into in a second. Now, that doesn't mean the S21 FE is the better phone here. This phone is a pretty good phone, but there's a really big difference between these, and that's with the software. When it comes down to the software experience between both phones, I've always felt like Samsung has a good time of putting a bunch of features on their phone. I think that's the best way to put it. I'm just not a fan of their software. I think it looks a little weird. You can always download something like Nova Launcher, which I've already downloaded on this phone, and I do think it's a pretty decent experience with that specific with that specific app. But again, it's kind of hit or miss, and I just wish it was stock Android on all phones. With something like the Google Pixel 6, I think Google did a tremendous job with this software. Android 12 still has a lot of bugs, and there's a lot of issues with the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, but those things will get fixed throughout time. And just like how there's a lot of issues with the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE as well, and the S21, there's always going to be issues with new devices. But with something like the Pixel 6, you're getting stock Android, which looks better in my opinion, but also this phone has the potential of lasting much longer than the S21 FE as well. So when it comes down to something like that, that is a really, really big thing to keep in mind. Although the S21 FE is kind of, has more features, the Pixel 6 is probably the one that's going to last longer. So in terms of that, that covers it up there. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. Now the Pixel 6 has that newer Google Tensor chipset inside of it with 8GB of RAM, where the Galaxy S21 FE has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset from last year with 6GB of RAM on the base model, and it does go up to 8GB of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is the faster phone between both of these. Okay, there we go. You can see my little curtain thing swinging. Sorry it's so blurry or whatever. So we can go and clear out all the apps, which we already did. So let's get into it. S21 FE here, Pixel 6 here, phone call 3, 2, 1. Kind of the same thing, not a big difference. Hopping out of that one, messages 3, 2, 1. I think the S21 FE was a little bit faster there. Chrome 3, 2, 1. They're both going to be on different panels or something. So we'll just go and load that one in the background. Camera 3, 2, 1. And it does kind of seem to me that S21 FE is a little bit faster. Let's go and take a photo in night mode. So this one did not need to take it in night mode. Kind of weird. Hopping out of this one. So I'm getting into settings. 3, 2, 1. I do get the feeling that the S21 FE is being the faster one here. Scrolling out of here, pretty much the same thing. Now I want to kind of slide between these apps and kind of see what's going on. And they're both kind of smooth when you're hopping out in that way. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into their Play stores. 3, 2, 1. I think again the S21 FE is the faster one. Very interesting. I was expecting the Pixel, Tensor chipset to be much faster than it was. I think they need a little bit of improvement there, but I think the S21 FE is definitely the faster one from those things that we just tested. Now let's go and load up some of these third-party applications that we always have to test. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, from what I understood, my Pixel 6, my Pixel 6 Pro, and my Galaxy S21 and this S21 FE had a really weird time, opening up this application. So we'll see if it's the same case, and you can see it did crash on my S21 FE, but it has crashed a lot on my Pixel 6 as well. So in this case, it looks like this one kept it open in the background, which is good. So let's go and close out of this one. So I guess one for the Pixel 6. Let's go and do Instagram 321. Pretty much the same thing. Hopping out of this one, Twitter 321. Kind of the same thing too, but this one did look like it loaded up this specific panel a little bit faster, which is cool. Snapchat 321. Almost instantaneous on both. That was very, very impressive. Let's go and do Fruit Ninja 321. Now this is probably also going to cause some issues, I feel like, on both. And one of these have their volume on. And it looks like the S21 FE was a little bit faster here too. The S21 FE is doing a really good job here. I was not expecting this phone to be doing as good as it is. Quizlet 321. And again, look at the S21 FE go, man. This phone is on fire. Dropbox 3, 2. I don't have it. Bofa 3, 2, 1. And again, S21 FE I think is faster there. Hopping out of this one. Thank you 3, 2, 1. I think the S21 FE again is the faster one. I honestly wasn't expecting this phone to be doing as good as it is. Snake vs. Blocks 3, 2, 1. I didn't even notice. I don't think I noticed as big of a difference with the S21 with the standard S21 and this one. So I did click on this display, so I may have just configured the game. So we're just going to hop out of this one. And honestly, that kind of covers up all the apps I wanted to test. When it comes down to it, I think the S21 FE did a better job than I was expecting. I don't think the Pixel 6, though, is a bad performing phone. I think which one has more potential. I think the Pixel 6 may have more potential in the future. But as of right now, the S21 FE did win that by quite a bit. So in terms of that, that covers it up there. Let's go ahead on the cameras now. Now on the back, like I mentioned, dual camera setup on the Pixel 6, a wide and ultra-wide sensor. With the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, does have a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens as well. Both can do 4K at 60 on the back, which is cool. However, on the front, the Pixel 6 can only do 1080p, with the S21 FE can do 4K at 60, which is a really big thing in my opinion. Now with the S21 FE, I think this is a really good camera. There's no 8K, but there's also no 8K on this phone either. And this was a very solid camera. It's based off the S21. That's kind of like a lower megapixel count on like some or one of the cameras, but this is a very solid lens. And like I mentioned before, very few complaints on my end. Photos it takes are great. The videos it takes are pretty decent as well. It's a little glitchy when you're maneuvering through like each one of these, but just look at how many options you have in this camera. I mean, it's crazy just the amount of capability. You have so much stuff you can do with this lens, and I'm a humongous fan of it. You have just all these features. I mean, it's crazy. Now with something like the Pixel 6, I think this is a very good camera too. I think because of the lack of that telephoto lens, I thought it would be a big deal. It isn't, but it is kind of an annoyance, compared to a lot of phones that came out nowadays. The biggest deterrent though is this front camera. It's not a bad camera, but if there's no 4K at 60, that's a very outdated lens now. The iPhones could shoot 4K at 60 since 2019, and these ones don't have it on the front. The back has it. The front does not have it. Now, when you compare these modes, I mean, when you compare it to the S21 FE to this one, I mean, look how many less of modes you're having, but you still have things like, good video, good portrait. I mean, you have a good stuff here, but I definitely do think the S21 FE wins in the camera department. To be completely honest, I think when it comes down to it, I think on it, this is so weird. I would think I would still rather have a Google Pixel 6 just because of the long software support and the stock ROM that's built inside of it. But I do think the S21 FE is the better phone probably overall. This one it just seems faster, seems a little bit more stable except for that one-time Temple Run shut off on it. The cameras are better. The battery life is about the same on both as far as I can tell. 4500 mAh here, 19 mAh battery here. They both have wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. I would say I don't think I would, if I had a Pixel 6, I don't think I would go for an S21 FE and vice versa. If I had an S21 FE, I wouldn't go for the Pixel 6. But if I had to choose one, maybe it would be the S21 FE now I think about it. The Pixel 6 is a good phone too. This one doesn't seem as smooth or as, performance heavy as the S21 FE, but the FE is a great phone too. Like, this is a really decent phone, but I would probably buy a Galaxy S21 before I bought this one just because it's cheaper in the used market and even in the new market on Amazon. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.